Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, viewers across Africa and globally. Now, these are a series of presentations from the African Institute of Supply Chain Research, and this is a third in a series of presentations to go on. Today's presentation, I'm presenting, my name is Prof. Emmanuel Award. I'm based in Kenya at the Management University of Africa. And I'm also attached to AISCR as the Vice President in charge of education, research, publications, and grants. So I'll take you, in the interest of time, through very briefly on generating research ideas. This is a presentation that would be very suitable for M&D students and any other persons out there who is thinking of a research idea and is thinking of jumping into this ship of research writing. So it's going to be very brief, possibly some 15 or 20 minutes, after which then we shall engage in some kind of some discussion. So the presentation, basically I'll start with some form of an introduction. Then I'll take you through some 8 techniques very briefly, looking at how you can just some more thinking in terms of generating ideas, scanning published literature, scanning previous dissertations, through some form of discussions and negotiations, some form of brainstorming techniques, using what we call the relevance trees, and using also what we call morphological analysis. And finally, a look at how to make use of decision tables. And then we shall make a conclusion to that. So really, the concern here is often you ask yourself, where do these ideas really come from? You see, that's a fundamental question. And where do they exist before even you have them, you know? And this is a very important stage when you are a researcher, because at the end of the day, this is the only way you will be able to see a gap and be able to have a meaningful research. And possibly if it is an academic research, then this is the only way then you'll find something that motivates you. Sometimes research is very painstaking, and you may need something that motivates you to keep going in the middle of all the whatever you may be facing. So indeed, we generally say that sometimes just sitting and thinking alone is not enough. Ideas exist out there, and often as a researcher, as a student, you are called upon to go out there and seek for these ideas. So what I'm trying to suggest is that if already you are listening to me and already you are in this stage, or you are thinking of some form of ideas, ways, techniques to look for ideas for generation, to maybe get into some form of research, then I think you are in the right place, and possibly then I'll suggest you try 1 or 2 of the techniques that we're just about to begin discussing. Now, the first one is generally taking time to think, suggesting, most scholars suggest maybe even some 5 minutes every day. Take time every night, 3-5 minutes, think about the incidents of the day, think about what happened, think about what you thought was very significant that happened, then make a note. At the end of maybe a certain period, and you review these notes, then something will just pop up and you'll get some form of direction. So this is one way of looking at it. Now, this is also very important, scanning published literature. So again, it's advisable that you browse through some of the recent journals, you browse through published articles that you may find useful, go through some online databases, go through abstracts or published work that is in your area of interest. And it's always good to work very closely with the university librarians, because they'll help you navigate through some of these online databases. Now, from scanning of written articles of journals, through electronic databases of your university, going through abstracts or areas of interest, is one way that you will then end up with an idea striking that then you might consider very important to pursue further for your investigation. Now, it's also most of universities have a database of previous dissertation. So it may also call for you to go through some of these past dissertations, go through this list of the topics that have been covered, skim through the abstract of some of these dissertations, especially in your areas of interest, and then just see what suggests for itself, see what pops out as a result of such kind of scanning. So this is also very important, because you may be building on to work that has already been done. As a result of these, you may be seeing maybe contextual gaps somewhere. You may be seeing maybe some conceptual gaps somewhere through search, or some methodological gaps somewhere, which then will help you to come up with an area that you'd be interested to work on. Now, the fourth area is discussions and negotiations. And possibly these would be, if you're talking of people, maybe students who are working, or maybe a part-time student, sometimes you may engage your employer in some kind of talk, so that you want to find out what are the issues at the place of work that are a problem. What are the areas that there are gaps that you think you can even collaborate with your employer, so that you look for solutions, you know, as it were. At this stage, you are trying to form some form of collaborations. You're trying to get into some form of partnerships through discussions and negotiations, so that you may, from such kind of talk, just get to pop out an idea that this is really a big problem in this organization, and that then the idea comes, and that would be one way of you then having an idea that then you can run on it. Now, the brainstorming technique is also very popular, and the suggestion here is that possibly you come into a group of 4 to 6 students or individuals that are following the same program. Then you take turns. Number one, stating your interest as clearly as you can. And then number two, noting down all the suggestions that the others provide without at this time making any judgments, right? So you just pick them as they were. Then number three, privately identifying the ones that you want to take further, you know? So you just have a session where you are generating issues, ideas, you're just popping them and you're noting them down. Then at the last stage is when you discuss each of these to clarify what it is meant. So this is basically the area now you are now trying to look at these ideas and critiquing them, right? Looking at them with a critical eye, so that you basically now want to find out which of these make sense and which one you would be interested to pursue further. So this can also be a very good way of generating ideas, often very much recommended, where you just have these sessions with individuals of like-minded, and you start popping out ideas. And then maybe later, then you have a session where now you critique each of these. It's as if you're sieving them through, so that then you end up finding which of these then makes more sense to you. Now, there's also the technique that is called use of the relevance trees. Now, what happens here is that you start with a general title, you know. So at the top there, you have this general title. Then you branch it out into 3 aspects. So from that general idea, then you generate three kind of sub ideas from that general idea, and you keep on generating three so that it comes out in the form of a shape of a tree, and basically that's where it gets its name, relevance tree. So at the end of it all, what will be required is that you go through as many iterations as it takes to come up with an idea that then looks promising. So again, this is just some kind of a way that you're developing up from this very broad idea, then you're breaking it down into various components until you're at a level where you feel that you have come up with some kind of idea. Now, I'll maybe refer you in the interest of time to work by Buzan 2003, and basically look at his graphic non-hierarchic technique of note-taking. That would be very helpful in getting to understand use of the relevance tree in a little bit a better way. Now, there's also the morphological analysis. And in this case, what you're saying is that you take a broad field that interests you, and then you maybe in a sheet of paper, you have three columns, right? So in three different columns, write down the three attributes of that field, right? So I have this field that interests me, then I have three columns of the different attributes of this field. Then the next step is you consider different combinations of examples, taking one from each column, and then you see what does this suggest to you. The example that I had in mind is, let's say we think of a general field like managers as leaders, you see. Then now I break it down into three columns. So the first column is definition of the problem. Then the second column, maybe I put the behavior. Then the third column, the contingencies. So I would have maybe a list of issues in the definition of the problem. For example, type of manager, leader as an agent, you see, leadership as a transaction, substitute for leadership, effective leadership. So I put all these ideas in one column. Then I look at the column of behavior. Then again, I put maybe things like assumption of role, right? Task-oriented style, maybe person-oriented style, maybe personal satisfaction, maybe interpersonal skills, you see. Then the third column, let's say the contingencies. Then I look at, for example, size of the organization, position power, existing relations, nature of task, national culture, something like that. So you pick, let's say now you pick one from each of these columns. As an example of what I've just given, let me say I pick a combination of, let's say, type of manager, then personal satisfaction, and then size of the organization, you see? So I'm picking from each of the ideas that generated in each column. So what would this, for example, the three that I picked from each of these columns suggest to me? What this can suggest as just an example would be maybe something like senior managers in small organizations may be more satisfied than senior managers in large organizations, you see? So it's an idea then starts coming out as a result of this. So I was just giving an example, but basically you can look at this in any field and try to come up with as many possible combinations that then you try to see what exactly is this speaking to me? What is coming out of this? So again, in the interest of time, I would refer you to the works of Sharp, Peters, and Howard of 2002. And there's more details on morphological and relevance trees discussed. Now, there's also the decision tables, which we can use as a form of trying to generate research ideas. So you go to the library and maybe you pick some 6 projects that you like, right? You'll also pick 6 that you don't like. Now, for these 6 that you like, you put a column and mark it yes. So in that column that you marked yes, then you write, what do you like about that project? What's good about the project? Why? When you feel it is good, right? Do the titles and abstract suggest anything to you? So basically that is in one column. Then The other 6 that you picked, which you didn't like, again, put a column written no. So in that column, again, you may then write in what you dislike about the project, what's unsatisfactory about it, and why, you see. So once you have all these, now you can sit back and look for a pattern and basically find out what sort of thing you feel comfortable with. So as a result of such kind of stimulating your mind in trying to generally, and this has to be in your area of interest, to try to find out what exactly made you like these 6 projects, you see. Once these questions are very clear, what you liked about it, what was good about the project, why you feel it is good, you see. And when you look at the to do the same for those that you did back and ask yourself what really makes sense to you. Is there a pattern that you can see? Is there something that is popping out as a result of you doing this kind of analysis? Again, in the interest of time, I would maybe encourage reading more on the works of Raymond, 1993, so that you can again get a detailed analysis of the decision tables technique of generating ideas. So I think what I've tried to do is just take you very quickly through some of the 8 methodological techniques that any M&D student or any other person interested in pursuing any form of research can basically use to come up with ideas. And remember, I say that this is very critical because at the end of the day, you want to be able to maybe solve a problem, you want to be able to fill a certain gap, and you want to be able to come up with something that will motivate you to wake up at any time and continue with your work. So what I would suggest in conclusion is go ahead and try one or more of the methods that I've discussed in this brief session. And this is very critical because this is your first step in your journey toward research. So ideally, it's very important that you get it right so that you're motivated to continue with your research. So I think generally that makes my conclusion of that very brief presentation. So I can leave some room for question and answers as it is.